dance in your love. I wanna feel your fire, baby, let me dance in your love. I wanna feel your fire, baby, let me dance in your love. I wanna feel your fire, fire burn, rising from the flames, burn dies only to burn again. Let me dance in the rhythm of your flame. If I burn, let me die to burn again. If I burn, let me die to burn again.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome back to Get Lit at ConsciousConsumerNetwork.tv. Mwah. Kisses and loves for all of you. And today, I'm sorry to say, my awesome comical co-host, Rebecca Hahn, is not able to join us. And in the moment, Dakota, Granny Woman, I had invited her to come on the show about an hour into this session, and she's having some internet challenges right now. So, Old Faithful, I am here with you, and I welcome anyone who is inspired to join this conversation with me. You can always go to the chat room, which is right below the CCM broadcast window. And the call-in number is there, but I invite you to also call in. I really welcome you joining the conversation and adding whatever is inspiring for you. So, as I mentioned, I posted 2 articles, and I had put them in the social network that I would like to talk about. And the first one is the memory complexes, prefab packages. That's what I called it. And if anyone was listening to Roundtable last Monday, just towards the tail end of that call, I joined in and I shared my wild idea. So I'd like to take this time to share with you what I was hearing and why I called it the memory complexes. And basically, this is what happened. Again, I was just sitting quietly, and I know the word memory complexes have been around, but I was just hearing there was another translation of that for me. And basically, I started to recognize that a memory complex is kind of like it's a package, and it's a package of data. And then what occurred to me was that, hey, wait a second. We've already acknowledged, things change. But right now, our community is pretty much acknowledging that there's a lot of mind control, there's manipulation, and there's all kinds of technology and psychological practices that are deliberately hindering our beautiful spirit expression. And actually, you know what? I'm going to clarify. It doesn't hinder our spiritual expression. It hinders the egoic expression, the part of us that is identified with the player or the character that's operating in the world of Maya or illusion. Okay? So when I was thinking about mind control, and then I was thinking about memory complexes, what occurred to me was the past. I started to identify the past is a memory complex. It's a whole package of data of what has been played out. And the future is another memory complex because it's a projection already. It's our hopefulness of a better future, a better world. And it's a memory complex. And each of them are memory complexes merely by that's what we've projected into those realities. And so then I came to the place of, well, wait a second now, the neutral zone, the place where the here and now is untouchable. The here and now is an immaculate and actually an immune position to be in. And I started to think about this and I went, well, how does this play into mind control? And this is what occurred to me. In the world of AI, artificial intelligence, and in the world of mind control, it appeared as if the whole system is almost like it's one step behind spirit. And when we project, the egoic self, the part of the self that has a character, is a player in the illusion, right? Is a player in the matrix. Okay, so when we project it, and these projections are in those memory complexes. Well, of course, and I referred to them as not the powers that were. I've been referring to them as the wizards. Okay, so the wizards can access these memory complexes. They can have control over it, right? But what they don't have control over is the here and now, because the here and now it's happening now. They're not foreseeing how spirit moves through us. That's why we have all this. Well, that's one of the theories, is that's why we have all this mind control, is because they're wanting and desiring to be spirit. And because they can't harvest spirit directly, they can harvest it by all this trickery. Okay, so when spirit generates a projection, past or future, now it's harvestable, right? And there was a thought I was having just before I said that I wanted to speak to. Okay, well, I'll just stay on this theme for right now. Okay, so in this here and now, is why I started to sense, the truth is, in this here and now, we're one step ahead. When we are engaged in the presence of our spirit and we're in this neutral place, the mind is clear. And if we go with some of the Buddhist teachings and understandings of the neutral mind, it's not discriminating, which means discrimination is when we name the things in the world. We use the labels, we use the words, we use the concepts, okay? And the moment that we discriminate is the moment we enter the matrix. However, in the clear, clean mind, when we're in this moment, we are not discriminating. We're allowing. We are not projecting. We're just being. And this is screwing the wizards up big time. And the wizards, what I spoke to in this article is basically they observed all the magical things of us, spirit beings on this planet. And they started to dice it up and they started to fragment it so they could analyze it. So everything got dissected and then they reassembled it. All right. And through that reassemblage, they started to recognize the ways that they could manipulate and the ways they could influence our behavior. And thus we have right now a world filled with many of us that are living outside of spirit. We're living, okay, spirit never leaves, all right? but we're living outside in the matrix. We've been indoctrinated to be affected by all the different memory complexes. And that's why, a permeating message in our world is come back home, come back home. All right. Well, coming back home is extremely challenging, and it has many obstacles, as we all know. Coming back home to spirit and being in this moment requires our self-imposed, or maybe I shouldn't use the word imposed, self-chosen attention. And therefore, each one of us, especially in this day and age now, each one of us is invited to create a very individuated, for lack of a better word, self-discipline. We now have the ability, we always have, to pick and choose what pointers you want to internalize that, in fact, will cultivate more and more spirit presence, more and more now moments. And so I had an interesting thing happen to me when I've been thinking about this memory complex. I had an example happen, actually. Okay, this is what happened. And now it's got me thinking about a whole other aspect of mind control. I was on Facebook, and there was a music video, and it was Tina Turner. And you may have seen it. And she was performing the song Simply the Best. Okay. Well, I have an affinity. I enjoy Tina Turner. Well, I watched this video, and oh my gosh, I think I must have watched it 5 days ago. And I noticed, and this happens to many of us, I noticed that the loop of her music and some of the riffs, like simply the best, better than all the rest, right? It was going over and over and over. Now, in my past, I would notice these loops. Sometimes I'd just sit back and enjoy it. But as soon as I was done with it, it was gone. This loop would not go away. And I started to really look at that much more closely. I went, what is up with this? I did all the usual antidotes. I went, hold up, I do not consent. And I was trying, I was reaching for some of my pointers, like, even Om Namah Shivaya. I love my inner self, and I was just like reaching, and I watched, and I thought, okay, I'm reaching. I'm grasping for a remedy. And I said, whoa, hold up. Let's get still, and let's get quiet and drop. And sure enough, when I was in a very deep, quiet place, the loop would disappear. Now, as everyone or anyone who has practiced meditation, you know that when you actually sit and you're in a quiet space, it's the easiest access to spirit and the now moment. Now, that's not to say everyone finds that in their meditation, but in the richest nature of meditation is you're sitting with spirit. However, I think many of us have had the experience that, well, once you get out of meditation, then you're back in the world. It's like, oh, I guess it's time to do the dishes. I think I'll go check my email. All right. And so we kind of re-engage with this peripheral world out here. We re-engage with the aspects of the matrix that we have in our lives. And sure enough, when I would leave that deep stillness, boom, the loop came back. Okay? So I had to really pause and think about that. And I thought, and I kept going back to meditation and sitting and just like, okay, what's up? And just, I think it was just yesterday, last night, I got this extreme sensation of my left brain and my right brain. And I felt extremely vulnerable. And I had a sense of, oh my gosh, there's a left brain memory complex and there's a right brain memory complex. And I'll tell you, I know in that moment, I was following an electrical wave that was trying to work on my left and right brain. And I started to identify almost like the left brain was a memory complex. The right brain was a memory complex. And so I just wanted to share that I felt very vulnerable and sensitive that I had in this moment identified the waves. Okay. So now I was able to identify the waves and say, hey, I do not consent. Now, I didn't bridge between the music loop and that, but that was a significant awareness. And it's one of the places that we get to go when we're sitting. And now we're asking spirit. Okay. And there's a real difference in when we hear the messages from within, which is spirit, our spirit speaking. It's a very different communication than when we're thinking about something. So then I had another insight. You know, the popular expression in the classrooms, at least it used to be years ago. I'm not so sure we use it that much right now. You know, the expression, put your thinking cap on. And I went, whoa, boom. And then I immediately went to put your thinking capstone on. And again, there it is. Okay. When we're thinking, we've left spirit. All right. And now we are externalized again. Of course, mind control is going to enhance and enthuse, put your thinking cap on, because, and then of course it's seen like a triangle, right? The pyramid. It's like, because now they have access to the intel once again. All right. Take your thinking cap off and you come back into spirit. So there is a differentiation in when spirit conversation is happening. And I always experience it just a very gentle, quiet voice, right? And it offers knowledge, what I would call knowledge and wisdom. And it's very different. I can feel it in my body. Spirit speaks more through the center of my being. But when thinking occurs, it really goes up into this general area. So I wanted to share that with you. I'm just going to check for a moment here in our chat room. And you'll have to be patient with me. I am a little dyslexic. Okay, good. Oh, hello, everybody. Whoops. I think my, let me see. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. All right. And if anyone's having any questions, feel free to enter anything here. Okay. And I'm kind of, okay, I'm seeing Tracy kind of obsessed with them too. Melvie's in there. Well, good. We're having a shop conversation. All right. Let me see. Because I don't know. I might be scrolling too far back. That might be the possibility here. I agree, Blue. It's like being in sync with source spirit much more. A feeling place than thinking. Yes. And so thank you, Tracy, because what I'm going to do now is both articles are kind of interwoven. I mean, it's really a stream. The other article that I posted there, and I'll go back and forth to each of them. The other one that I posted was on universal law. And basically, yes, it's connected to what I'm describing. When we allow ourselves to drop into spirit, okay, and we experience the knowing that spirit is in alignment with universal law, right? And I use the visualization, spirit's behind all of life. Spirit's behind this physical organism, okay? This bioorganism. And when we're not in that thinking capacity, when we're in this present moment, there is an alignment and there is a knowing that there's a universal law. And that, you know, astrology, astronomy, the sciences, mathematics, and on, we already know there's an organic flow, and there's a very natural organic system, okay? And we're part of that. And so when we're residing in our home, we're residing in this universal law. And so the direction that I went with that was I used the metaphor of universal law has its own judiciary court, so to speak, okay? We're talking about law. And when we have, let's use an example, we have an experience of confusion. We may either be confused by ourselves or we have an interaction with someone and we're real confused. Or we can just look at the matrix. How many times do we very innocently and very cleanly approach a situation and go, well, why are you charging me that? And the matrix controlled response is to keep you confused, right? And we sit there and go, wait a minute. We know there's a truth here. I feel the truth. I'm trying to speak to the truth. But we get this convoluted response and it creates confusion. Okay. Confusion is not of spirit. And so we turn to our internal universal court and we go, whoa, spirit court. And you lay that confusion on the table. And spirit court examines this and goes, well, I'm all of truth. You know, I don't represent confusion. And you lay it on the table. You've laid that confusion on the table. Well, what you're asking is you're returning to the universal truth, the universal court, your own judiciary system. And it's going, no, truth is truth. All right. You know, and it helps us to identify that confusion is it's a result of an ego. It's an ego mind thought. Confusion is of the ego. And universal law is not, I mean, we're going into that, those deeper understandings. It's not the ego and it is. Yes, we realize that. It's like it's not existence and it is existence. But basically, the spirit nature, the neutral mind, does not necessarily participate in confusion. So it's up here. It's in the mental, matrixed out ego, mind control. So as we come back to spirit and we come back to our organic alignment with universal law, there is no confusion. And once again, we're in the moment. So whenever we drop back into spirit, we're going to be confronted with our attachments. We're going to be confronted with our programming. We're going to be confronted with patterns, loops, energy habits. And that's our choice. But when we return to universal law, we've come back home. And so sometimes we have the experience of, here we are sitting in spirit, and we go, well, wait a second. If I'm living in alignment with universal law, which then says spirit fully understands and fully attracts and rejects what spirit has, affinities for, right? Well, then our question always is, well, wait a minute now, but then what do I do when I go out there? What do I do about this situation? And that's the koan. That's the koan of the matrix. And one of the consistent guides is anything in the matrix that's causing confusion is out of alignment with spirit. And that's our choice if we want to come home and be in this moment. And I'll tell you what, it's very difficult. It's very challenging to be here now. Our mind just is so addicted, and that's how I've been thinking about all the programs. It's like we've gotten addicted, and that's part of the control. And so when we feel something in ourselves, we can actually, take internet, for example, and some of the issues we talked about with social networking, Facebook, or our phones, texting. We're seeing a lot of documentaries now showing how the human is totally in the phone, and they've got their girlfriend or boyfriend or sitting beside them, but they don't notice that, oh, hi, honey, yeah, and the hands around the neck, and it's tap, putting in the text message. Okay. There's an element of addiction, and I'll admit I've identified my own addictions. And what happens is, I'll take a day or sometimes 3 days where I just don't even go to the social networking. And I can identify in myself only because there have been other things in my life, in my past, that I knew I was kind of addicted to, and I wanted to address that. Even like in a diet, you say, okay, I'm not going to eat anything with sugar. And then your body goes through withdrawal. And we have the common expression, oh my gosh, I'm jonesing for a cookie. I'm jonesing for a cookie. I can feel my body. It wants it. It wants it. Body got used to it. It's like, where's that sugar? Well, anytime we withdraw, unplug from habitual relations in the matrix, there is an element of withdrawal. And on the other side, there's an element of you're jonesing, you got to get a fix, right? Well, universal law is asking, or maybe not even asking, it's revealing to us that if you're jonesing for something in the matrix, all right, you're still, you're still looking to an unjust system to fulfill a desire for justice. I know I skipped back to that judiciary idea, judiciary internal court. But what we're still doing is we're looking for that justice, and we're looking for those answers in a world that is not going to provide the justice. And it's not going to, it'll give us another fix, right? It'll give us more sugar. It'll give us a fix, all right? But it never fixes us. And where that universal spirit is, it's just kind of saying, well, hello, y'all. If you turn to spirit and ask it for the justice that you seek, well, universal law is just. Universal law, there's no discrimination. Universal law is everywhere. And it's just a matter of which court do you want to go to? So when you experience that injustice out there, and you also experience confusion out there, and you're trying to answer confusion with a mind that's out there, well, you're just going to get a matrix solution. But when we're in this here and now, and you allow universal law, and this is where the practice is so important, is that universal law, spirit, does provide. It provides everything that we need. And I'm going to give you another example of this. Or not another, but I think the first. So here's universal law. Here's an example. This is pretty funny. I'm just sitting out on the deck, and there were two events that were going to occur that day. And I wanted to be a part of both of those events. And I don't usually participate in much anyway. But there were two events, and I was like, I don't get it, And it was like, I knew I was preparing for one event. But on the other hand, I kept thinking, I really want, and they both occurred at the exact same time. So I just sat down, and I was just like, okay, spirit, what do you want to do? And honestly, here I was in my head. I was trying to figure out timing. I was starting to weigh out, which one had, which of them had more value, And finally I was just like, this is crazy, man. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So I just let it go, and I was sitting in the sun. And all of a sudden, I honestly, just from within me, I was reminded that event, one of the events, had been canceled, and I had forgotten that. And I wasn't thinking. I was just sitting, and I was asking, just being in the universal energy, just going, okay, something's out of sync here, and I just need to come to balance, and, and guide me. And out of nowhere, I get that reminder. I was like, duh. And boom, it was resolved. Now, that's just a small example of spirit has full awareness of what our affinities are, Spirit has full awareness. And this is what I shared on the call the other night, is that when we sit in spirit, okay, and spirit is what's enthusing this physical body, all right, and this physical body has its own intelligence. Spirit is what comes through. It has, and it comes through the body, and the body has an affinity to eat food when it's hungry. Spirit knows the body needs food, the body needs rest, and reveals that into our awareness. And the challenge here is when, we all have these understandings theoretically that, if you sit and you be in this moment, all will be revealed. But we have to face, all the challenges and even the demons that show up that keep taking us out of the moment and keep taking us out of the discipline of exploring and finding out for ourselves that the truths are continually being revealed. And the challenges are, you've heard the expression, peeling the onion. The challenges are, right? Someone says, hey, sit in spirit, you'll have all your answers. And the first thing that comes out of us is, yeah, and who's going to pay the rent, right? Who's going to take care of the mortgage, That's a tricky part, and everyone explores that differently. But when we jump to, oh yeah, who's going to pay the rent? We're out there again. But when we muster up our courage and we take the risk of, I'm going to keep breathing in the moment and see what happens to me, okay? And allow those occurrences. I feel that's where the wisdom is gained. All right, let me check in here to the chat room, see if there's anything. Yeah, worked out ever. I like that, Tracy. Had it happen many times, conflicting schedules being worked out effortlessly by the universe. Call, yes. Boy likes cake. If you want to enter the conversation via a phone line, Biggie will be putting the phone number up on the screen and you can dial in. Oh, I like this, Jerry. Tracy, and Jerry's referring to what Tracy says, that often said that the universe writes itself, and the universe, oh, good. The universe writes, W-R-I-T-E-S, writes itself, and the universe writes itself, R-I-G-H-T-S. And it does, but it has to be your experience. Absolutely. Yes, as soon as we stop worrying about it. Okay, now Masha, she has one synchronicity happened in my life. Felt like that life events were directing me in working together with someone. And I had made an appointment with that person. But deep down, something did not sit well with me. But I could not clear that up. Then I got sick, really sick. And the moment I told myself that I would not go to that meeting, I was fine again. That's a beautiful example, Maja. That's what we're talking about. And I think that's what's changing in our world, is that there is more and more of us are starting to connect the dots to our spirit essence, to the spirit experience. And we're starting to go, wait a minute, I had this question out here, and then this happened and that happened. And then just like what Maja just reported, she observed herself. She knew that she had an intuitive feeling that something wasn't quite aligned, but she was continuing to move towards it. And then what happened? She gets sick. And so now she's sick because there isn't an alignment with what the spirit affinity is. And then as soon as she releases what she was thinking maybe she should, could, would do, she gets well. It's that observation that is strengthening us in knowing there's something really cool inside that's guiding us. And these experiences are very personal. That's why we hear often, there's no masters or teachers outside of us anymore. That was a prefabricated way of misdirecting us to believe in false gods. There are no false gods when we're home. And I think that is I'm glad that we are collectively addressing that now. And we're breaking down the icons, that whole saviorism out there. It does not exist. There is nothing out there. And go in here, again, maybe there are people in the chat room you can speak to. The complications that we experience when we turn to spirit, because we're up against our addictions. We're up against our habit energies, everything that, you go inside and then the doubt comes up and it's like, can I trust this? Yes. Okay. I was just checking that chat room. Okay. I'm just looking at my notes and seeing if I had another example there. What is this, Masha? Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. The false gods are still out there. They're trying, but we're not giving them power over anymore. That's correct. That's correct. And when we don't give them power, I think is when we get to that place of knowing they don't exist any longer because they're not getting our attention any longer. We're not feeding them. And so there's all kinds of ways that we can come to these places. And I think what's beautiful is we are finally beginning to communicate with each other about these magical moments that happen in our lives. And we're starting to see how the dots are connecting. Let's see, what do we got here? Tracy, it's like tossing about all the ideas and figuring out what we know for sure. Yes, yes. And I have to say that, in my personal practice, I observe that moment of discrimination, that moment that a thought begins to emerge. And for the longest time in my practice, I could never resolve, how do you follow spirit, right? And find this neutral place and continue to exist? Well, of course, I was always comparing it to the Matrix. I had the same questions. It's like, how do I follow spirit and keep a mortgage going, which means then I have to stay in a job? And everything was really crassly against my spirit. And I know that we have all looked for those creative solutions. But what kept driving me was walk, get rid of my possessions, deepen my frequency of trust in spirit and see how it leads me. And that each step that I took, more and more would be revealed to me. But I even realized having possessions, like having a garage filled with possessions, was actually a burden for me. I was still taking care of all those possessions. And I finally, and I stopped thinking, oh yeah, I'll use that someday, or, and 10, 15 years go by and those objects are still sitting out there in the storage space. And I remember when I finally started just like, I am done with this. I could not believe how much energy released in me, how uplifted I actually got when I started to let go of things. Because that's the invitation. You start to go, okay, how do I do this? Well, we hear a lot of people talk about, let's go back to the land. We're talking about food, shelter, water, and fire. And I think spirit is what's prompting us to go back to that very organic nature, organic way of being that is more resonant with our organic selves. But it also means we withdraw from the, maybe we're not in walking distance anymore to our favorite coffee shop. We withdraw from all that social activity because now we're a little more in the rural environment. We start to withdraw from letting go that we don't have all our comfort foods, but now we're learning a new way to eat. And I know that many of us, and we hear it in some of our social network conversations, like, oh my gosh, I want to find an island and go live there. I think these are real, very real organic impulses of spirit. But many of us started to move in that direction maybe 30, 40 years ago. And whoa, all of a sudden you're up against, yeah, but now I'm living this way. How do I afford the piece of equipment that I need? Or now I need more batteries for my solar system. And we've got that monetary, gnawing at us, And believe it or not, these are the opportunities that you throw right on the lap of universal law and you go, okay, spirit, I want to be in alignment with you. I want to calibrate with this universal law. I know that you're providing for me. I know you're providing everything for me. I know that sometimes out of thin air, I receive food or for whatever reason, somebody gives me some cash. Those are the very exact things that we put on the lap of the internal universal court and we go, help. No, well, not help. We have to be careful of that. We go, you see what my needs are. Okay. I like it better that way, spirit, because help is, you don't know what you're asking help for. So I'm being watchful of that. But you're saying to spirit, I'm in complete alignment with you. I'm dedicated to you. And you know what my needs are. So right now, I just want to, empower this being in having a deeper frequency of trust that the provisions will be there. And the real test to that is be patient, trust. You don't even have to verbalize to spirit. Spirit knows who we are. And spirit has its very organic affinities. Affinities like the body needs to be fed. It needs rest. It needs medicinal assistance, all kinds of things. That deep frequency of trust is a way of being. It's a way of life. And we're going to, as we discipline and cultivate, we are going to always see things emerge from the habit forming enculturation that we no longer have to figure out. We take it. We go, we're wanting something out there. We just take it, put it on the lap of spirit and universal law and go, okay, spirit, I don't know what to do with this. Spirit, reveal to me. What do I do with this? Okay. And then trust. All right. Let me take a moment. I'm going to check the chat room again. I love this chat room. Let's see. Fine tuning. Yes. What we have actually experienced ourselves. Yes, Jerry, it is. It's only our experience. You see, we can listen to one another. You can listen to me, share my experience. It's not my experience and I'm not the way, but it might spark something in you. Just like when you're interacting with me, something might spark And that's the beauty of sharing. Yes, experience is a very key word. And let me see, John, let me see what you have to say here. I watch the false gods as mental constructions, which in turn means, in a deeper meaning, that people who give themselves the false gods give themselves over to external, which in truth is a projection of our inner world. We are now going back to the knowing of oneself, which is what I am, which is what I am is all about. Not sure if this makes sense to you. Oh, absolutely. John, I resonate with that because I think we do have that understanding that eventually, as we break down however we go, however the sequence we address it, but as we break down the little aspects of illusion, we come back to the alignment of spirit. There is a place that I think is absolutely inviting us to recognize, and we've heard it in different ways, but again, you have to experience it, right? Right now, when I share these words, it's just pointers. But I have experienced that I go behind the matrix and then I go behind what I call me, and yet there's another release. And I come back when I sit and observe, not perceiving, and then I let myself perceive. I have to agree with the understanding in this moment, because it always changes, that our mental projection, our mind, is fabricating the dream that we see and experience. And that there is a place where we even go that more into spirit, where we know we're creating every iota of it. Those are complicated theories, but in the deep meditations, those wisdoms get revealed according to your affinity. I don't know if I went off track with that with you, John, but that's what it inspired in me. No, it looks like, John, you have plenty of people getting what you're saying here. Let's see now, Masha. She says, Shama, I have difficulties with spirit will provide us in everything we need. I do feel this is not true. When we would live on the organic earth, this is true. But the reality in the now is that the organic earth, access to her, is still stolen from us. That's why there is poverty and people being homeless, etc. You know, Masha, you're asking, it's such a pertinent question. And it's similar to like what I said. Yeah, if I stay in spirit and trust I'm all provided for, who's going to pay the mortgage, okay? This is a really pertinent question. And I can only offer my experience. And I'm going to back up just for a moment. On my personal journey, and it has always been spiritually focused. I thought at a very early age, I didn't know what all my options were. I was heading for the convent, okay? That was the closest I could get. If somebody had told me I could have gone to a monastery or a more Buddhist environment, I would have been there in a heartbeat, okay? However, so I just want to explain where I come from in even speaking to this. So I went throughout life, I've always been seeking what we call spiritual path. It became a very personalized journey. And over the years, I studied every spiritual teaching and philosophical, philosophies. I've looked everywhere, in all the intercultural religions and philosophies. In fact, went to school for that, all right? Now, at this point in my life, I've never could settle into an external doctrine or dogma or way of believing. For all the same reasons, this community, and I'm speaking of you and I, this community knows that's not the answer. Okay, so I give this little bit of background first. Right now, and it won't be I have been rereading scriptures and Bibles, Upanishads, the Vedas. Right now, I'm reading a Buddhist Bible. And I've read these materials before. I'm rereading them again and again and again because I know that I get more centered in my spirit self, that when I reread them, I now have more trust that I can take the kernels of truth that resonate with me and reject what I can actually identify as having been skewed or, disinformation. Okay, I'm getting back to you, Masha. And so I would have to say at this point on my journey that I am very influenced by much of the Buddhist teachings. I find there are a numerous amount of pointers in the Buddhist teachings. Not into the whole dogma, and I'm not into, mantras and repetitive prayers, okay? But there's something in the mindfulness practice that does affect me, and this is how I'm spiraling back to you. Something in the teachings pointed me and resonates with me that there was a deeper understanding in what letting go and what attachments and detachment meant. Throughout my life, I always knew there was something in me that wanted everything out of my life except one backpack. Something in me I was driven. I just wanted to get rid of everything. And I never could do it. I never made the step. All right. And it was something in the Buddhist teachings that was resonating for me. There was something about let go of the possessions, let go, let go, let go, let go. And one day, not only a few years ago, okay, one day, I decided to let go of all my possessions. I just had to do it. And the only reason that supported me in doing that is I had deepened my trust in me. And there was enough trust, but I was wavery and I was scared. And I knew my mind couldn't figure it out. But there was something in me that said, go for it. And I scared the shit out of myself. I mean, I really did. And the biggest one was when I walked on a house I had a mortgage on. And the mortgage as of that moment was up to date. When I walked on that, oh my gosh, it was like everything, my mind wanted to scramble around, go, no, you made this investment, you could sell it, blah, blah, blah. And I was tired of trying to sell it. I was tired of the responsibility. I was tired of my attachment. I just didn't want it in my life anymore. And I had to ignore reason. And I walked. And my being, oh my gosh, the spaciousness that entered my being was amazing. And I promised myself I wasn't going to go back and try to retrieve anything. I wanted to keep walking. All right. Now, this path for me and how I experienced that brings me to what you're saying. I had to deepen my trust every turn I made, and I left the job too, of course. I had to deepen my trust that something greater than me was taking care of me. And I promised myself whenever I would be in a place of, oh my gosh, I've got to move on, and I don't have a lot of cash, and I don't know where I'm going, I promised myself I wouldn't get scared, or if I did, I would be present to it, but that I wouldn't give up, and I wouldn't get negative, and I wouldn't blame the world, all right? And I would just sit down and go, okay, Spirit, I promised myself that I was going to trust you. And sure enough, I mean, it would always be within 12 or 24 hours, sometimes instantaneous. Some solution presented itself, something revealed itself, and I kept going, and I never hurt for it. I never was without. All right. So now, when I say universe takes care of us, I am really, really, really practicing let go of anything that gets in the way of spirit providing for me. And I mean, if I'm out on the sidewalk for just 3 hours, and the world might think I'm homeless, in that 3 hours, I'm going to stay steady, and I'm going to stay close, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to allow, and the universe is coming through. Okay? So I'm talking about a very disciplined practice of anything that gets in my way, that thinks that it can't happen or it can't be so. I challenge myself to let go of it. And I think spirit, source, uninterrupted, has universal law. It is organic. We're organic, and we're one with the earth. And I can't describe it, and nor do I want to. There is something so great that's taking care of us, but you have to be willing to let go of anything and everything, even if it's, this material value, right? When you need anything, it comes back to you, but you got to go to that place. You have to trust. And so, and if you're still holding on, then you'll never find out. If there's something in your life that you're holding on to because you don't want to let it go, and Spirit's saying, walk, just walk, you're only going to find out when you let it go and go further into that trust. And so now to answer that other part of Masha's statement here, when we let go, and I get more and more in the presence of universal law. And again, this is why I brought it up. I know I'm telling a long story to get to this response, but the reason I shared about the Buddhist teachings and how they influenced me. What the teachings have brought out in me is that there is a place that you can get behind your perceptions. And I know this is something we can't explain. I can only share the experience. There is a place where there is no problem. And that doesn't mean you lose your empathic self of people in suffering and struggle. What I have learned is the deeper I can sit here and see and understand perception and the emergence of thought, okay, it's deepening my compassion. It doesn't take away anything that's happening on the planet. But when we change our relationship to spirit, because spirit isn't looking at our matrix dream reality world. Spirit is not saying there's bad things happening here. Spirit is not saying that. Universal law is not judging what the matrix perception calls judgment. And so that's why, I know this is a big jump, but that's why when we come back into this universal beingness, there's a place of viewing that there is no problem. And I'm going to wrap this up. One of my greatest fears when I saw the direction I was going in with this understanding of myself, my greatest fear, and it was a painful path, was, well, then why am I here? Why am I in the world? How am I going to relate to this world? Where's my love? How am I going to just stop caring about people being hurt? And, all kinds of fear came up in me. But what I didn't know, I trusted Spirit letting everything fall out. What I didn't know is how much compassion was going to deepen within me when I let it go. Okay, I know that was a lot. I'm going to check into the chat room, and I can only share my experience with you on that one. Let me see here. John, I think that sensation, moving to an island, is out of the knowing that the truth resides within us, and our desire to learn and walk the truth excludes much of the external world where social engagement is less important. Yes, I think, and I've come to that awareness as well. It's like, and I like Tracy follows that with, and it takes a bit of solitude too. When I was starting to have that awareness that, in fact, you don't have to go anywhere, but yet I was having a desire to go, like Hawaii, which I did a couple of years ago. It just, if you just give yourself permission, if you want to go to an island, I think go for it. Even if you know in yourself, well, do I really need to go to the island? If you have an impulse to go, Spirit's guiding you to go, because it's going to fulfill or deepen knowing who you are. And I think that's the adventure on the planet. It's like, I don't believe in the monastic life. You do it all by yourself here. I think if we have passion and impulse, absolutely go and do, because it's just going to deepen our understanding. It might be you go and do and go, dang, why did I spend $5,000 to get to this island? And I'm still who I am. I still know what I know. Well, that's the point. That's my take on that. I see what you're saying there, Matja. I think you're on point. Let me see. Catch up here. Yeah. Well, the part of us that's created the mess on Earth is the part of us that is a dualistic participant. The sooner we get jiggy with universal law, the sooner we'll start taking responsibility for the life that we choose. Yes, Tracy, I agree. It's like we're on a personal path. You see, there's no right or wrong. You're the only one who determines if it's right or wrong. If you're drawn and have an impulse towards an island, by all means do it. It's not right or wrong. Follow it. Follow your spirit. And maybe going to that island means you walk on a mortgage, or you let go of 3 cars, or da-da-da. Look at everything. What happens when you go to that island? A metaphor, people wanting a place. It can be a metaphor, Tracy, going to that island. And it can be for real. Hey, as I'm watching this, I went to Hawaii. And I was following the one people from years before, right? I was in Hawaii. All my friends said, man, you're in the perfect nest. I brought my teardrop, my 4-wheel drive over there. I made it happen. And I dropped everything in Hawaii because something was going, okay, where did the one people land? Morocco. And I said, all right, I never thought about Morocco, but something in me And it was like I was going to leave what my friends said, my gosh, you've made it. You know, you're living perfect. You've got this, you got that. And it didn't matter. My security didn't matter. This is what mattered. And I did it. And I am so profoundly wiser for that experience. Okay. And yeah, I needed to go there. I needed to kind of confirm things that I knew. Yeah. Yeah. And all of us have the answers. All of us have the answers. I agree. Not by themselves out of the cause. You are not the answer to the child who is suffering. Feeding a child. Loving, compassionate person would do what they could to assist a hungry child. That's right, Tracy. Yes. And that's the beautiful part, because I genuinely believe organically we are gentle, loving beings. And there is a love and a compassion in us to assist each other. And that's the important thing. I think a lot of the spiritual teachings were misinterpreted in thinking that you become cold and aloof, and you look at them and you go, oh yeah, you know, we've heard this one. Oh, it's their karma. Oh, they deserved it. Bullshit. It doesn't matter. Our heart is our heart. Our love is our love. We're going to assist in any way we can. And be reminded, the only reason we get overwhelmed with the thought of, oh my God, how are we going to fix the world? Because the fixing, the healing, the compassion is right beside you in this very moment. And the more and more of us that deepen that compassion and deepen our alignment with organic spirit, that is going to just flower and affect all around us. That's how we're changing the world. If that's what you're desiring to do. Okay? When we go within, we allow the world to unfold. But every time you go out there to fix the world, you're still in a dualistic system. And we all know it's got its obstacles, its challenges. It's like, you know, the wizards created this great game, only they cheat. They're the only ones that know the rules. Okay? So there's no, how are we going to play that game? We don't. That's why we suffer. It's like we keep trying to go out and play the game, and it's like, dang, you know, they don't play by, we don't have the rules, period. So, but this is untouchable. And I think that practice of being in the moment is what gets us clean. It's what gets us clean and gets us clear. Yes. And I think those organic things is what's calling us, you know, like working in a garden, okay? Working close to the earth. There's a resonance there. And there's an honor and a reverence. And we have an affinity because we're both organic, all right? We have an affinity. And John says here, I look at love and light as the symbol of truth itself. In order to invent the lie, we have to know that truth first, which means that light and love and compassion always comes first. We are later on being taught to do the opposite, which is to lie, cheat, steal, etc. Tracy, I agree. She was agreeing with Masha up above. I consider all of our plants our babies. Grins. Yeah, that's beautiful. And see, that's the beauty of it. It's like, I really believe our spirit has affinities, and we do. We know what's right mindfulness. We know what is right living. We know what gives us joy, what tickles our spirit. And when we're in those moments, that's spirit in its affinities, moving through this body. But there is a whole beautiful practice of getting behind all this, getting behind it so that you can really see it, and getting spaciousness, and start to recognize, now I'm in duality. Da, da, da. Now I'm here with spirit. And I think that's why solitude is so important. And I think more and more of us, at least from just the immediate environment I'm in, more and more people are seeking solitude, not being quite as social, not going out as much, really staying home, staying close, taking better care of themselves. Maja's saying here, when the child is growing up in real life, it has the experience of abundance and does not need to go into survival mode. Yeah, real life equals real love. I think that's, I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking, those of us who are parents and guardians, we're sheltering our youth, our young ones, and we're sharing our consciousness and, lack of a better word, morality, virtues of the heart. But the unfortunate endeavor is that eventually we have to teach them what's going on in the world. And of course, our his story books don't represent that. And so I've seen that with children who have been brought up rurally, kind of back in the 60s when we were raising our flower children, right? There was lots of beautiful spirit experienced in learning. But then it's like, they are still integrated and interacting with this reality, and we can only share with them what we know. So we have to teach the children, give them the tools, the same ones that we're learning, right? The same ones that we're learning. And we have to make very wise choices. I mean, I think it's to a child's advantage to be shown that there's a world of duality. Okay. And I wouldn't even call it good or bad. I wouldn't judge it. I just say there's a world of duality and there's the world within. And I would continue to point out and clarify when the action of a child, oh, that's duality, you're playing that, or when, boom, they're in spirit. It's like, and acknowledge, now you're in universal law. Yes, and Tracy just added her 13-year-old daughter. We focus a lot on self-awareness. That's right on. And then we're given the skills, but you got to help the child, because when they go back out, when they go into the world and they have all this self-awareness and they're not able to communicate with people because they're not quite connecting with the similar self-awareness. There's all kinds of things going on. That's us. That's on our shoulders. And that's why I think it's important. It's like, I have a friend who's doing some tutoring of a teenager. And one of her responsibilities is to teach history. And she's of our symbol-like consciousness. And it's like, my gosh, think about it. The kind of history, we have to rewrite it, what the kind of history is to teach. But I had this insight the other day. Someone had posted, I know what it was. I think it was Jess Trudeau on Facebook. She had posted, yet another video of artifacts being found, and there was reference to the, what are the Dracos called again? That reptilian race. This is pretty good. It's starting to leave my memory. The Anunnaki. Okay. So I was looking at this, and I'll tell you what, in that moment, I even commented like this. In that moment, I looked at all of it and I went, you know what? There's not an iota of history or facts on this planet that tells our story. I mean, seriously, I realized that, you know what? Our origins happened so long ago. And I think of origins as we're the gentle, loving people, right? The Matrix reality has been here for so long that there's not an iota out there that represents us. And you know how we have been, we go searching, through the artifacts of time, and we're looking for pieces that reflect us, and we're looking at bones. And you know what? I got such relief when I just went, there's nothing on this planet that is our story. It's been so convoluted and trashed, right? There's nothing. Even all the biblical stories, even though I said, I go in there and I look for little pieces, I'm not even sure, I have to sit back and go, what piece is this that's resonating with me? But think about it. All the made up stories of the Bibles, the scriptures, right? All the stories of lineage and kings and queens and bloodline, da. None of that is who we are. That's the position I came to. None of it is who we are. If I was to look at her story instead of his story, I think the way it would look is something like we were living on the earth and we knew there was a greater spirit that provided for us. We didn't question that. We were very innocent. And because we were in exploration and had a real sense of being taken care of, we were not filled with fear. We didn't even know what fear was. We looked at Sophia Gaia, at our Mother Earth, and saw the reflection of ourselves, saw the beauty in her, tasted things, smelled things, ingested things. Then we experienced the elements together and went under a tree or inside a cave. Okay. I think that's the origins of who we are as spirit. And how, if we didn't have all that other, his story involved, and it was her story, our story that evolved, there's nothing in any books that would represent us. Okay? And I kind of like thinking of it that way. Because you see my image, source, uninterrupted, like origins. And when we get to the place that, we are not the matrix in spirit, universal selves, that is not us, but we are here and we are able to observe it, all right? And remember who we are as spirit and interact. But it's a very beautiful, freeing feeling to just go, dang, that's the history of duality. That's the history of war. That's his story. And I think it's of more value to stop picking through the artifacts and looking for ourselves in it. Because when we come back to spirit, we don't need proof that we exist. I mean, seriously. That's my thought. Let me see what we got going on here. Well, it looks like, I guess we went way past. Dakota probably never got internet going. That's okay. I hope I've been a good host for y'all. I love what's going on here. Give food, yeah. Look at the light symbol. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a good feeling. Just wanted to be prepared in the world. That we're speaking of the youth. Yeah, the child does not need to go into the dual mind, does not need to go into the protection mode to see the reality of now. Exactly. Oh, thank you, Jerry. Yeah, I stumbled around, finally found that word, Anunnaki. See, it's slipping out of my memory complex. And this is a good thing. What's this, John? Same conclusion. I am moving towards because no book in the world can tell us who we are. Only the introspection, reflection, and questioning of who we are can give us the answer to that question. Totally. I know. And yet, I just shared how I have been influenced, but it really does come down to experience. It's like it might not even be the Buddhist teachings that are sparking me. It's I let myself experience a thought, and then it's mine. And then funny, let's see, Tracy says, for years now I've had the thought that we should all create our own stories. Yeah, as in we're writing our own book as we go. Hey, Tracy, I heard not long ago, we're continuing to write the sacred scripts. We're writing the sacred scripts now. Yeah, and you cannot capture me. Yeah, you can't capture human spirit in words. But do not translate. Oh, thank you, Tracy. Yeah, I agree. It's like, if we're just here right now, the story I would tell is I trust. There is just what I shared. I trust. There's a universal law. There's something greater than me that I'm a part of. And I know that I'm provided for. And I know I am guided. And I'm here to have an experience. Yeah. And I did think about this the other day, though. I thought, geez, if the world was all paradise, right? I just wonder if, like if you think about the design of Maya, illusion, if you just think about the design of it. And if in fact we're experiencing and reflecting back to source, it certainly has been a good aggregate for flushing our spirit back out to source. But who knows? If we had continued as our origins and life was all paradise, there's no telling, what we would have continued revealing to source. I guess that's yet to be revealed. Yeah, sacred script. I love that word too. Absolutely. And so I think, yeah, I love that we're having communications, that people are thinking out loud, and that we're sharing these moments of spirit. And again, I just feel when I deepened more of my now self and my spirit, I was able to take bigger bites off of the situation on the planet. Because the only times I go and view, the atrocities and struggles and sufferings in the world is when I'm well-centered. And it's not that I'm not asking the old questions anymore. I'm not asking, why does it occur in a external dualistic way? Although I observe that. I'm asking more, what is this experience within me? What is it showing me? What is the relationship of my spirit? And I've come, now my latest is really, I'm exploring that whole concept of this is a dream. And then there's the dreams when we sleep. And that these may very well be, they're just mental perceptions. They're all my own. And therefore, spirit projects these situations to experiment and explore. So then I wonder, am I sleeping when I'm dreaming? Is spirit projecting yet another mental perception? So then I came to this place. what if we are lucid dreamers here in this reality as much as we can be a lucid dreamer in our sleep dreams? And one of the reasons I went there is that when you're lucid dreaming, you can change your dreams. When you're a lucid dreamer and all of a sudden you're in a scary situation, your lucid dreamer can change the fabric of the dream merely from a perception. So if we're a lucid dreamer here and now, right? And this is what's really cool. And here's the matrix is a dream. As a lucid dreamer, we can change our perception to have a relationship to this dream that is more in alignment with the affinity of our spirit. That's one that I'm just kind of meditating with right now. Yes. And there you go again. Like Tracy reminded me is that, yeah, we're finding the muse in all things. And I love the muse. And remember, I wrote that other article of finding the muse in myself, thanks to CCN, Danny, and Lisa. It's that when I really embrace that, okay, I'm projecting everything. It's my story that I'm putting out there, and I put it on my lap, and I let it reflect back to me. It's like we become our own muse. Whatever perception we're having, it's ours. So you just sit that there and you go, okay, so that's our experience. That's the opportunity we get, is to explore with whatever is happening in our lives we created, and we have the opportunity to ask, why is that so? And then the problem's not out there. Now we can put it bring it to the universal court and find the justice within, find the clarity within. Now I'm just going to take a peek at those two articles and see, because there was something else. I remember there was something else I really wanted to share from the memory complex. And let me see what it was on a final note here. Oh, okay. So what I had written was, yes, being present is a natural cleanse or a cleaner of the memory complexes. And I really do think that we're untouchable in the here and now. Yeah. And I do think we're busting it up. When we stay in the here and now, we're busting up any kind of artificial intelligence. Because think about it. I always think, I think of it this way. The moment a thought creates an invention, or the moment a thought identifies a science, it already becomes archaic by the mere moment of its form. The most vital and the freshest realities have to come from the organic, as Lily would say, the light creation, okay? That is the freshest, most organic brilliance, is in this moment. As soon as it goes out into that world of form, it's already become archaic, all right? And once it comes out into form, right, now it can be discriminated, it can be conceptualized, it can be manipulated, all right? But if you come back here in the brilliant light creation, right? Nothing has access. See, the access is out here, and there lies the memory complexes where artificial intelligence resides. Okay? So again, remember, artificial intelligence is one step behind source. Okay? Artificial intelligence can only work with what we have released into the world of discrimination, into the world of form. And so when we're here in this moment, they're not on it. They can't be on it. It hasn't been created. And so they can't touch it. So whenever we feel something's invading us or there's negativity, just hold that image. I think it really works, is come back to the moment. That's your safe zone. That's the neutral zone. You're immune. You're in pure spirit. You haven't put it out there, so it can't be messed with because they can't foresee it. They might work the moment you give a creative thought to the world as in form and concept and discrimination and judgment. They're on it. Okay? So I would say as coming towards a conclusion here is be very watchful of how you share your spirit intel, your spirit brilliance. All right. And as we're in the moment, we're safe. Yeah. So that was just a parting thought that I wanted to share. That I thought that I just love that. I just love going to that place and realizing that, dang, they can't touch you. I just love that. Yeah, floating in curiosity, Tracy says, in the now. That's a good one too. Yeah, floating in curiosity. But it just makes sense to me. And I always, remember because of the fact that they studied, the sciences and mathematics and da-da-da. And the wizards pulled it all apart and they reassembled it. Well, you know yourself, by the time they reassembled it, it was archaic. It was done. It was over. And all the things that are organic are continually, it's a continual flow. We're evolutionary, we don't know what's going to happen in the next moment. And that's the mystery. That's coming back to embracing the mystery and the uncertainty and floating. Is there anything anyone wants to clarify or questions? I know you just we're just all in this dance together, and that's pretty cool. I love this chat room. And then let me see. Okay, here. Okay. I'm just going to share some last insights, not kind of jump off the subject a little bit, but for the final ending of the session. I was thinking about, how we've always been told in our meditation pose, we've been told, keep your legs open, feet on the ground and arms open. Well, I was sitting in meditation. I don't necessarily do that. In fact, I usually have my legs crossed. I just sit however I'm comfortable. But I thought about that. I was looking and I thought, my legs are crossed. And I thought, what would make more sense metaphorically is that we, in fact, crossed our legs and crossed our arms, because then we'd be mirroring back to ourselves our own DNA structure. And I started thinking about that open. And it's like, wait a minute. I had to really stop and question. It's like that open. Is that like, am I too vulnerable? Am I giving it away? Just thoughts like that. But I thought, hey, I couldn't help it to notice the crisscross was like probably more in alignment in my physicality with my DNA strand. So that was just a fun thought. And then The other one was, fed the world. How did I do this? This was good. I thought of the word federal, and it broke it down and went fed her all. And that, like the federal note to the world, it was like, what if it's like a fed her all? Like the dollars, instead of federal, fed her all. That would be our mother. So that was just a fun thing I was playing with. Yeah, you sit cross-legged. Yeah, I wonder about that. Oh, that's true. The yoga posture on the floor is your legs are crossed. Yeah. But I just thought about that, that crossed and open. Oh, here we go. John says, here is a summary of mine about all as I perceive things in our reality and how to fix it. The light reveals the darkness through the information that brings knowledge and understanding that results in intelligence and wisdom, but is reliant on the right action over wrong action to bring order to chaos that begins with the truth, which is the source of everything. Yeah, that's well said. I like that. I like that. Yeah, the light reveals the darkness through the information that brings knowledge. Yes. And, I love equally visualizing complete black with complete light. I sometimes, the other day in a meditation, I saw a black, I called it the black sun. It was like the sun was behind and the black sun was in front, enough so that you could see the rim of the sun. And there was something about that just kind of brought me into a nice balance. But I love that pitch black knowing light creation emerges from that pitch black darkness. So my friends, it looks like, we're at the hour. And I want to thank you again to all my listeners and viewers. Thank you for being here. And thank you, chat room. Thank you for the conversations and the sharing. And I just want to remind you that this platform is Conscious Consumer Network.tv. And your pledges and your contributions is what keeps this alternative media coming to you. Our producers are continually upgrading their software, their hardware, and they're working around the clock. So, I always come back to this. I know it's easy to say, hey, we need 60,000 for the year. And it's like, that's good. Okay. But, I always feel like, gosh, if we just gave $1 or €1 for just each show or session you visit, that's $1 and €1, and it's really helpful. And I also want to, and you just go to the CCN and the donate. And also, I also want to remind you that CCN, it's that we are upgrading all the time, and there are new programmers. So be sure to, visit the site, check the shows, and tune in. And I'm just very grateful. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to be with all of you. And again, if you want to continue any conversation, we're on Facebook, Get Lit Show on Facebook. And always welcome, if you have any thoughts afterwards or just want to continue the conversation. Yeah, and it was nice to have you aboard, John. You're new to me. And I see all your thank yous. I love all of you. Yeah, you guys are great. Thank you so much. And I'll look for you in our social network world. Yeah, another delicious show. Perfect. All right. I love you all. And I'll see you next week.